Okay, so great to be with you today. Kineta is a biotechnology company based here in Seattle, Washington. That's where I am today. And I want to thank Marty and all the organizers for the opportunity to present in front of the group today. I just want to also let you know that my colleague, Gary Gentjes, is in the audience, and some of our other investors are also there. So Gary will be able to provide, after this presentation and at dinner tonight and during other event functions, an opportunity to learn more about the company. So please seek out Gary if you have any questions after my presentation today. So Kineta is a clinical stage biotechnology company. Our focus is really on next generation immunotherapies that address some of the major challenges in cancer treatment. And I'll spend most of our time today really talking about our platform and our most advanced programs, which is a novel treatment for more difficult to treat what we call colder tumors in the immuno-oncology space. Our platform is developed around a monoclonal antibody-based development platform. So these are infused drugs that have very high regulatory success rates. We do have a global patent estate composed of more than 40 issued patents. We have 2 drugs that are currently in phase 1 clinical trials. We expect to have 5 drugs in clinical development by 2024. We've done 2 major pharmaceutical partnerships, one with Genentech Roche in the neuropathic pain space around a drug called KCP506. We've also done a large commercial partnership with Pfizer in the immuno-oncology space, and we have a manufacturing partner with Samsung Biologics in Korea to manufacture our drugs. We have an experienced management team. We've started 2 companies here in Seattle and an excellent IO-focused, immuno-oncology focused science advisory board. So when we look at the landscape of cancer immunotherapy, we really find that there are 3 major problems with current drugs that are in the immunotherapy space. These are drugs like Keytruda or Opdivo or Yervoy, which are sold primarily by Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb. And so when we look over these range of problems, what we see is that we have non-inflamed tumors. We have tumors that we call colder tumors. They don't have many immune cells in them, and the immune cells that are in there are non-functional or they're actively anti-inflammatory. And there are 3 reasons for this. The first reason is that there's generally immunosuppression in the tumor. We have many cells that are secreting immunosuppressive factors, immunosuppressive growth factors like cytokines like TGF-beta, and these prevent inflammation of the tumor. They prevent the immune system from recognizing the tumor. In addition to that, we have a problem called exhausted T cells in the tumor. Many of these tumors can actually generate a certain type of immune cell called a T cell, which is very effective at killing tumor cells. But over time, you stimulate those T cells over and over again with those cancer antigens, and they reach a point where they can no longer be stimulated. So we have these exhausted T cells. We need to fix this problem. And then finally, there are certain types of tumors like pancreatic cancer that lack tumor antigens. They're very difficult for the immune system to recognize as foreign. And so we're developing drugs in each of these particular categories. Our most advanced drug is KVA-12.1, which is an anti-VISTA monoclonal antibody intended to correct the immunosuppressive tumor microenvironment, so the top left of that circle. And then we have a development platform, which is a patented development platform called the Pioneer Innate Immunity Platform. And it really integrates different technologies in the innate immune response that focus on these key mechanisms of cancer resistance and really marry that up with fully human monoclonal antibody development, some technologies around single B cell sequencing, which really allow us to develop broad repertoires of antibodies targeting our drug targets, and then a number of proprietary assays in the innate immune response, which are really focused on, very specific kinds of drug targets, which are not commonly pursued in the oncology space. So this is the company's pipeline. Again, we're an innate immunity focused company. So when we think about the immune response, we have both the innate immune response and the adaptive immune response. When people think about our immune response, they typically are thinking about our adaptive immune response. This is something that, for example, would come online after a vaccination. So the adaptive immune response would be T cells and B cells and antibodies But in order to get that strong adaptive immune response, you have to have a really strong initial innate immune response. Those are the things that give us fever, aches, pains, chills, the interferon response very quickly after infection. So our technical focus is on the innate immune response. And a lot of the company's differentiation comes from the fact that most companies in this space are focused on the adaptive immune response. Kineta is one of a very small number focused on the innate immune response. Currently, we're developing VISTA for solid tumor indications, and we expect to begin clinical trials for VISTA next July of 2022. We also have 2 additional products in our portfolio, a CD27 targeted monoclonal antibody, which is about a year behind in development from our VISTA targeted antibody KVA-12.1, and then a CD24 monoclonal antibody, which is focused on low tumor emitting antigens. And then finally, I'll tell you about one of our global partnerships, which is a drug for the treatment of neuropathic pain, which modulates inflammation around inflamed nerves. And it's also a very interesting program, again, anchored in innate immunity. And that program has formed the basis for a partnership with Genentech Roche. So when we think about our cancer indications, a lot of the drugs that we're developing are for colder solid tumors, these uninflamed tumors. And really the 2 biggest opportunities there are non-small cell lung cancer and colorectal cancer. These are opportunities where existing checkpoint inhibitors like Keytruda and Opdivo don't work. And those 2 indications drive most of the initial commercial value for our addressable market in the United States. There are a number of other tumors in here, including renal cell carcinoma, head and neck, and ovarian. That initial set of indications is about 450,000 patients in the US. These would be patients with advanced or metastatic cancer who are candidates for immunotherapy. We have a very experienced team. My own history is initially, I have a PhD in genetics. I worked on the Human Genome Project early in my career. I founded one company before this in Seattle, Lumigen, which we exited as an M&A transaction with public company Cubist, which was subsequently acquired by Merck. I've done 2 major strategic partnerships at this company. I've raised more than $57 million in non-dilutive funding for the company and have an excellent track record in patents. The technical team has worked with me for more than 20 years, so we have a very experienced and cohesive team. And we've been adding to this team with some critical players from the pharmaceutical industry like Craig Phillips and Jacques Boucher, who help us with our pharmaceutical partnerships and also will help to build out our company's sales and marketing team under our go-to-market strategy. And then in addition to that, we have some really exceptional innate immunity focused scientific advisors. And these individuals are from some of the key clinical cancer or oncology clinical development programs in the United States. And so we're very proud to have the endorsement of our Science Advisory Board. So our lead oncology development program, KVA-12.1, is a monoclonal antibody, which is targeted at VISTA. This is being developed as a once-monthly infusion for cancer patients to be chronically administered. And it's for indications that are advanced solid tumor that are colder tumors. So these would be things where existing immunotherapies do not work. So the anti-VISTA monoclonal antibody is really focused on this immunosuppressive tumor environment. These are tumors that have a high concentration of immune cells, which are secreting immunosuppressive factors into the tumor and preventing that tumor from becoming inflamed. We think VISTA is a key player there, and KVA-12.1, by blocking VISTA, is going to be able to reverse that immunosuppressive tumor environment and drive tumor inflammation. So this is how it works. In a colder tumor at the top, which is shown there in blue, we have actually many innate immune cells, which are expressing high levels of VISTA. And these innate immune cells are immunosuppressive innate immune cells. You can have inflammatory immune cells and immunosuppressive immune cells. In some of these difficult to treat tumors, we have a large number of immunosuppressive innate immune cells. These innate immune cells also actually interact with VISTA. VISTA interacts directly with a number of tumor cells to prevent inflammation. Our antibody blocks VISTA in the bottom panel that drives a remodeling of the tumor microenvironment and strong levels of inflammation in the tumor, and that really reverses tumor growth. We're really targeting this as a phase 1 clinical development candidate for July of 2022. We'll be evaluating it as a monotherapy and in combination with checkpoint inhibitors for solid tumors where checkpoint inhibitors do not work: non-small cell lung cancer, colorectal, renal cell carcinoma. Peak annual sales for the initial 5 indications are modeled at $2.6 billion. So these immuno-oncology assets really are a very large market. Non-small cell lung cancer and colorectal cancer drive most of the sales in this particular area. So here's a sales buildup from initial approval of clinical indications in 2028 through 2038. And you can see that in the darkest blues, we're really building up most of that model from sales in non-small cell lung cancer and colorectal cancer. We have many patients who are diagnosed with advanced cancer who do not have many therapeutic options. I'm just going to talk very briefly because Marty told me that we're short on time about one of our.
You got about 10 more minutes there, Sean. 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Okay, so I'll talk about one of our partnered programs, which is a very interesting program, KCP506, which is a once-weekly subcutaneous injection for chronic neuropathic pain. This is really a drug which is intended to replace opioids. We have a major public health problem in the United States from the overuse of opioids. There are almost 300,000 Americans every year who accidentally overdose on prescription opioids. And you can see that epidemic of overuse of opioids is driving down life expectancy in the United States. So this is something I think probably everybody has heard of, a phenomenon that everyone has heard of. KCP506 targets something completely different. It targets a nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, which is expressed in the innate immune system. It's also expressed in the peripheral nervous system. And so it blocks pain signaling, but it also prevents inflammation around injured nerves. So it does something that's really quite opposite to what we are trying to do with our immuno-oncology programs. Instead of driving inflammation in the tumor here, we're trying to prevent inflammation around injured nerves. This drug is indicated for peripheral neuropathic pain. The largest commercial market here is in radiculopathy, which is chronic lower back pain related to nerve compression, which is a very common injury in the United States. We're also targeting chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy. We've completed 2 phase 1 clinical trials, and the total addressable market here is about 23 million patients in the United States, and it's about a $4 billion market.
We have a question from the audience about your investment round.
Oh, sure. I'll just jump ahead to that. So currently we have an open Series A investment round. The company has closed 18 million in that investment round in 2 tranches. We're planning to close the remaining 7 million of that round on the 31st of December of this year. So we're trying to close out the Series A, $25 million on the 31st or before. The use of proceeds are the continued clinical development of KVA-12.1 and advancing the anti-CD27 and CD24 monoclonal antibodies. The company still has a considerable non-dilutive funding from grants and contracts, and we also have our partnership with Genentech Roche. In terms of cash on hand, we have about $17 million of cash on hand. That provides cash runway through about June of 2022. And then our future financing plans for the company are really $40 million Series B to fund the clinical development of our oncology products. We are preparing for a public market offering in the United States, either as an IPO or through a reverse merger. And we think we can achieve this in 2022. So that Series B is planned to be our last round of financing. Marty, did you want to follow up on that?
I think that was the question, yeah. Hold on, we got another question. Is the price of the round for new investors the same as the lead investors?
Yeah, that's right. We did our first tranche in May. We did a second tranche in September, and we priced them the same. So we will keep the pricing the same. And I think my colleague Gary Genchis has specific information on the pricing of the round that he can provide.
Gary, can you hold up your hands so everybody sees you? That's Gary in there. Okay, he's going to be at dinner tonight, so he can discuss the investment. Keep on going, Sean.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the IPO market. We really think that IPO exits are a very good opportunity for Kineta in the United States right now. 2020 and 2021 have been exceptional years in terms of biotech IPOs. And there hasn't been any diminution in the rate of these IPOs over the first 3 quarters of this year. So we continue to think that the biotech IPO market is going to remain strong, although valuations have come down in some of the initial IPO companies. When you look at the companies that are able to go public, we've seen a couple of things that I think are pretty interesting. First of all, mostly cancer therapeutic companies. That's because pricing is very strong in cancer therapies, and it's the largest global market overall. And we would expect that most of those are cancer immunotherapy companies, so companies like Kineta. We've also seen a shift over the past 5 to 7 years toward earlier stage companies that are in phase 1 or preclinical. So there's definitely more appetite for earlier stage cancer immunotherapy companies in the IPO space. And that is leading to higher valuations. And the average valuation is somewhere in the neighborhood at IPO of $350 to $400 million for these companies. This particular slide is showing the median IPO price in 2020 in the first half of 2021. Again, those median prices are a little bit higher than the average because they're distorted by a small number of companies that have super high IPOs. The mean is a little bit lower than that, but it is in the $400 million range. And we see a lot of, really exciting opportunities. We also see the M&A market coming back from about 2 years of a slowdown in the biotech space. And so M&A and types of deals that we've done before with Genentech, Roche, and Pfizer are the types of deals that we can continue to do as potential exits for our investors. So I think I probably used up my 20 minutes. I'm not super good on the clock here, but I wanted to thank everybody for the time and see if we have any opportunity for more questions.
Okay, any questions in the audience?
What's the valuation?
What was the valuation again? Sean?
The valuation is $150 million.
And how much has been invested in it to date?
We've had about $27 million total invested, and that includes the $18 million in the Series A, which I described.